This is Halloween, the time of year when we entertain the dark side with a sense of humor. There's been people who say, don't give credence to the devil. I don't have devils in my head. For me, this is just fun. My name's Tim Murton. I'm an artist and painter. That's my thing. This is this is sort of just a sideline.
Well, we started on Tuesday with Township Parks and Rec Department helping us out. They come with their big trailer and a couple of pickup trucks over to the storage area where we keep them in Fergus. We're probably installing about 60 total, something like that, maybe a few more. I'm Kirk McElwain. I'm the chair of Sensational Elora and the chair of the Monster Month Committee. Most of them are in pretty good shape right now. We've been repairing them over the last 3 years, so they're in pretty good shape. This year's a bit different because we brought them directly over to the green space here, so they're convenient for everybody. Most years, we take them for the Center for the Arts and have a major workshops to repair them all. But this year we're doing repair in situ kind of thing. As we get them up, we're trying to do the repairs. It's a bit of a different year in everything we do, right? So this is no different. Tim used to do this all the time on ladders. This is sure a lot easier and faster. Tim decided that he'd been doing it long enough. He was wanted to sell his monsters. Sensational Elora didn't want to see them leave Elora, so we found a couple of very generous sponsors and helped us purchase them. I think it's basically got a great reputation. I mean, Tim's been doing it for close to 20 years now, and it's grown over that number of years considerably. We have people make specific trips to Elora in October because of Monster Month. The monsters hanging through town are, I guess, what you'd call the seed of Monster Month. All the other little activities have grown from that. It's important to Elora. There's a lot of things that just can't happen this year, so we're making do. That a lot of people are trying something new and trying to make it happen, and monstermonth.ca has got it all. So stay tuned to monstermonth.ca.
Welcome to Elora and the spectacular month of October, where our little village comes alive with creativity, animation, and culture. My name is Dalziel, and I'm the tourism coordinator for Elora and Fergus Tourism. The community of Elora, amongst fall foliage and the spectacular natural backdrop, has become a haven for potters and painters and artisans alike. Allow me to introduce you to one of our most creative creatures, Tim Murton, who is our monster creator and mastermind of Monster Month.
I was going through my emails one evening and I sort of saw this thing of Martha Stewart. I thought, Martha Stewart? I do I know Martha Stewart? It's like, who is this person? Got my partner then to come over and have a look, and she says, Martha Stewart! Yeah, this is big. So did some communication backwards and forwards, and it was a tremendous compliment that they wanted us to sort of drive down there with a truckload of monsters and set it up. But the biggest compliment was actually from a neighbor of hers who said, hi, my name is such and such, I'm Martha's neighbor. I just got a phone call from Martha to say, come and check this out, this is amazing. And that was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And she's a lovely woman. I invited her to Canada, but she can't come because she's a felon. Well, this is, I love weather, and I love powerful storms. So this is a work in progress, and just sort of building it up in layers. So this is dry now, so I'll varnish the whole thing and do another layer over the top of it. But the idea is this is powerful. There's blue sky at the background, and down here you see the fields and the landscape. You just get a hint of sunshine coming from the other side. So there's always hope.
Are you ever finished a piece?
No. No. It's finished when it's sold, because then it's not mine anymore, and I can, you know. Matisse said a painting is never finished. It stops in interesting places, and I think that's a good way of looking at it. Sometimes I'll have a good piece of work and I'll work on it and ruin it and then throw it away, which is kind of heartbreaking, but it's part of the process, I guess. I was born on a dairy farm in the southeast of England. I probably ate a bucket of dirt by the time I was 2. No supervision, we're just like wild animals. And yeah, it was terrific way to grow up. Yes, my mother was a teacher, and she was always encouraging. She pushed me and pushed me and pushed me, which can be kind of tough sometimes. The big thing for me was when she took me to the Tate Gallery in London. It changed my life. I was like 10 years old. And to go and see, I worshipped Salvador Dali's work, and to actually see it in front of you, and the man had actually painted that with a brush in his hands. It was a very, very special experience, and that's basically that's what set me on fire. I always showed artistic ability, but it was that journey to the Tate Gallery that sort of launched me into any kind of serious endeavor. But I had a technical education at school. Actually, at school we had to do agriculture, horticulture, technical drawing, metalwork, woodwork. So that was a very good grounding. That helped a great deal. Yes, I came over to Canada as a construction economist, and I worked for mining engineering companies as an estimator for mining surface facilities. And then at the age of 29, I quit and went to art college. What an incredible experience. From going from an engineering field where everybody sort of stayed and regimented to this, it was almost like belonging to a mental institution where everything was okay. It was okay to have ideas. It was okay to explore and create and all this sort of thing. And what a wonderful experience that was.
We're transitioning from work to artistic life. How would you describe that?
Painful. One entertains this idea that one can just sit down and paint paintings and make a living out of it, but it doesn't work that way. I was out of work, and I was basically down and out on Queen Street, living on donuts and coffee, day-old donuts and coffee, and I was in a terrible state. And then I met this guy, and he said, do you want a job? And I went, no, not really. And he said, come on, we need people. I said, okay, what time do I have to start? He says, 7 o'clock in the morning. 7 o'clock? I don't get up till 11. Did my first day's work, and I made enough money to keep me going for 2.5 months. So I went back. I rose through the ranks to be their head painter, and then I took my painter's trade test with IATSE, the union, and then I took my scenic trade test, and then I started, I got fired. I went into work one day and they said, oh, we don't want you anymore. So I ended up getting a job on a film starring Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni. And I loved the whole environment and, you know, everything that was happening. So one movie to another, and then I rose through the ranks as a scenic artist, and then became what they call a key. So I was running the paint and scenic department for movies. And so by the end, I clocked up 45 feature films. It's a very intense, frenetic kind of business. Anyway, my doctor suggested, instead of getting depressed and, you know, all this stuff, why don't I do something creative? So I used to live right over there. So I built four ghouls and put them on the corner of the house, and everybody loved it. So next year I did a few more and a few more. And then it just kept growing year after year. So yeah, it was a good way of dealing with anxiety and all the pressures of working in film. So there's a mental health aspect to all of this, because it's basically light up the dark side and have a giggle. I did it for like 4 years, and then there's 1 year I didn't do it, and I had people turning up and knocking on my door and saying, "We just come here from Cambridge and there's nothing to see." And that's the moment I realized I'd taken on this kind of cultural responsibility. The show kept getting bigger and bigger every year, and I kept getting older. So there came this crossover point where I had daydreams of squishing it all into a cube and putting it in a dumpster. But I ended up selling it to Sensational Elora for half the material costs over 15 years. So it was a giveaway, really.
Would you have let the monsters leave Elora?
No, I thought about it. But it's Elora. We spent all this time branding Elora as a destination for Halloween because it's the shoulder season between the end of summer and Christmas. But being creative is very important for the human soul, I think. It's very important, and the arts don't get a lot of attention because, let's put it this way, all the artists are employed in selling stuff, and this is a different thing. It's not selling stuff, it's just enjoying the creative process.
When I was first introduced to Nessie, the way that I looked at it was it's just a giant and more involved paper mache project. Hello, my name is Katie Clarke. I work here at the Wellington County Museum and Archives, and I am what you call a program assistant. And today we have a very special project that we have to work on, which is fixing up Nessie, who is part of the Monster Month here in Elora, and she has to go sit on our front lawn for an entire month, but she has some holes, so let's go fix her up. So we're gonna patch her up throughout the time that she's standing outside in the elements. She does sometimes get eaten by squirrels, and they do sometimes take pieces of her to make nests, and then the elements just get at her. So every year we have to come out, look for those big old patches that are missing the white, and sort of make sure that she's up to snuff and ready to present herself on the front lawn. It's a relatively easy process. You have to get rid of all this, because that's not going to stick to anything. So you cut that off, and then you put some cheesecloth, a layer of cheesecloth over the chicken wire, and then you put 3-ish layers of tissue paper over top of that. There we go.
Have you met Tim?
Yes, I met him last year around this time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was here sort of showing us the ropes because we'd never had to completely redo a monster before. So he was telling us exactly how to fix it so that she looked presentable. because she sure didn't last year.
Pesky squirrels.
Yeah, the spider gets the worst of it every year because the spider tends to hang out just in front of the heritage barn. So they climb up the pole and then get on her back and eat her all up. Last year was a pretty big job because we had to tear all of it apart and completely redo her. So this is very nice because it is just patchwork. It's light enough that light can come through because if you look inside just underneath, there are light bulbs there. So there is electricity that goes through different parts of each of the monsters and it does illuminate from the inside. So it's light enough that the light can get through, but it's structurally sound so it doesn't get destroyed. So much so that we have to redo it every year. So there's just patches, which is lovely.
Oh, wow.
Strange, the weather.
I haven't spent much time under tin roofs either.
I do enjoy Halloween. I do enjoy the enthusiasm that people bring into Halloween. I love the historical context of Halloween and how unique it is. How those traditions that we see as something very childlike, like making a jack-o'-lantern, has very fascinating historical interpretations. The very first jack-o'-lanterns were made out of turnips, and they are a way to scare away ghosts, because during Halloween, that veil between the spirit world and the human world is thinnest. So you find ways to make sure that you don't get lost and end up in the spirit world. So you wear masks, you make jack-o'-lanterns. So it's interesting how, even though we don't notice it, these traditions and these historical stories get passed down and then they evolve into the things that we have today. So I love Halloween just for that very purpose. I find history extremely important, including traditions, because I find if you lose that, you kind of forget the lessons that come with those traditions and come with that history. So my job as an interpreter and as someone who does public programs, we are people who collect those stories and then retell them so that we keep on learning from them and we keep on growing from them. So by having these monsters out, although it seems sort of maybe a little frivolous to some people or kind of odd, it's a great way to interact with your community on a closer level and do something unique and something special. And it's through telling those stories that we're able to interact even more.
Wow, that's a big job.
It is.
How long would you say this takes?
Last year it took about a week. I'd say this year is going to take a couple days just to make sure that all the big patches get done. I love stuff like this. It's super fun, it's exciting, and it gets me closer to a community that I personally have not grown up in.
Is the museum haunted?
I get this question a lot. I'm not 100% sure. I've never experienced anything, but staff and visitors have told me that they have experienced things. There was a ghost hunting group that came here with Kyle, and he walked them through in the middle of the night. And they had video cameras going while he was touring them around. And apparently there's ghosts speaking in the background. I don't know. I can't imagine why there wouldn't be something, just because of the experiences of some of the residents that lived in the poorhouse at the time that it was the House of Industry and Refuge. There are some brutal or sort of sad stories that you can find in these facilities. And so if you do believe in the spiritual world, I can see this place being a hot place where you can hear spirits, but I've just never personally experienced anything. All right, well, let's get back to fixing up Nessie.
Now, traditionally during Monster Month in the month of October, our community is chock-a-block full of fun activities and things to see and do. One of the most popular for the living and the dead is the Monster March Parade.
The Monster March is a parade of all the little creepy creepies and the princesses who are pretty, and everyone who wants to be creative and come out and march down the streets of town with the rest of us. Doesn't matter what your background is, what you look like, how shy or bold you are, you can come out and join us too. The monsters started it all.
Looks amazing.
My name is Julie Denany, and I'm a graphic designer and an event planner here in Elora. I've seen a big, enormous, green-headed paper mache monster that a family in town made. And I remember the very first year they brought their little son, who was maybe 3 years old, and he was in a wheelbarrow, and he was pretending to be dead at 3. It was awesome.
When the Monster March began, Julie wanted the march to collect things for our community. So she asked our local group, the Sparrows, to make something in which we could collect food donations for the food bank. And we made monsters from donated shopping carts. And we walk through the parade every year and people feed the monsters with donations for the food bank. I'm Stephanie Lyons Toohill, and I am the co-facilitator of the Sparrow's Nest in Elora. The Sparrow's Nest is a local youth community group. We make things from found objects and we celebrate diversity and resourcefulness. We try to make the arts accessible for all.
This year is quite unique because we've all been asked to stay at home and not to collect in a big gathering out on the streets or anywhere, even privately in your backyard. So we've got one family and people who have worked together who are in the same group to come out and march for you on a mini march.
The Monster March, when all of my little children can get dressed up like their true selves and we wander the nighttime streets of Elora. My name is Paloma von Felix. I'm a sorceress, a water diviner, and an educational assistant with the Upper Grand District School Board. Oh, I've seen wonderful things at the Monster March. I've seen bones and people dressed as goblins. It's very nice. It makes me feel very at home.
I think they love it because it's a way to be creative. It's a way to pretend and not have their lives be the same as they're used to. So something a little different. That's why I do it. And I notice that the kids find sometimes them being a little bit bolder or taking on the identity of someone that they appreciate. And same with the adults. You know, I get to be a gypsy, I get to be a monster, I get to be something silly like a clown. And I think it's a creative opportunity to spend time with friends and family and your neighbors.
The future of Monster Month lies with you all. Come and enjoy. Don't be a ghoul. Get involved, be engaged.
I hope Monster Month turns into much more of a monster villages, both Fergus and Elora turning into the creepy land that everybody around here likes to go out and see.
The future of Monster Month, I would like to see much more community events. I would like to see more accessibility, some workshops, a chance for everyone to come and give thanks for the abundance of the season, and perhaps remember our ancestors who came before us and family that are no longer with us, a time of celebration.
I'd love to see more people starting to build monsters and put them out in their yards. I would love to see Monster Month expand to the point that Centre Wellington becomes October destination for people in Southern Ontario and further.
We're at this point where either it gets big, and it could be huge, or we let it go. If there's the will to make this happen, it will happen, because you're basically just providing the venue for people to do what comes naturally. So, people love Halloween. Halloween's about having fun. Christmas is about obligation. It's a different thing altogether.
Check us out at sensationalelora.ca and find out how you can become part of the cast of Monster Month.
A skeleton would take a day. A major piece would maybe take 2 weeks. But the thing about wires that you're drawing in air, so you can make any shape, and then it's free-form engineering too, because you've got to make this thing it's an exploration of shapes. It's an immensely satisfying process.
It's not really that heavy at all. I couldn't give you a number, but they're easy to drag around by yourself, which is lovely. Yeah, so they're quite light actually, surprisingly so.